We do not want to be a Tesla or a Samsung. We wish to be acquired by those giants. We are building rechargeable aluminium-ion batteries. Basically, batteries that do not catch fire. If I plan to do that individually, it's going to take me 7 to 10 years. But if Samsung takes that up, it might just take them a couple of years. I think the dream come true moment would be a company like Tesla or CATL or Sony or Samsung acquiring us for $1 billion.
Why $1 billion? Did you just make it up because you think that's fun for as a founder?
$1 billion is just a number. I want a safer and affordable battery to be present in every Indian household, having been grown up in energy poverty myself.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Ways to Wealth. Today I am joined by Shalini. Why don't you give us the TLDR on what you do on a day-to-day basis and what you're building?
Hi Charlie, I am Dr. Shalini Divya and I am the CEO and founder of TasmanIon. We are building rechargeable aluminium-ion batteries, basically batteries that do not catch fire. And we're just trying to create a cheaper alternative so that everyone can use affordable energy storage systems. That's me.
That's cool. And how long have you been working on that?
My work on aluminium-ion batteries started back in 2017 when I started my PhD here in Wellington. So that's been, 9 years almost? Yeah.
Wow, that's cool. Everything good takes at least 10 years to build.
Oh my God, yes. The commercialization journey turned out to be very different from what I was doing in the lab, right? Because when I was doing my PhD, it was mostly about getting good data or publishing or appearing for science conferences and so on and so forth. But when it comes to commercialization, you are creating a product which is based on what the end users or the customers need. Investors enter your world. So all of that changed drastically, I think, for me in 2020, which is when I finished my PhD. So I can actually divide the journey from 2017 to 2020, and then the rest is an adventure.
Yeah. So, I guess to take a quick step back then, just to start with, is did you always I'm maybe making an assumption that you didn't know that you might be running a business and building this thing.
I was applying for postdoc positions in the final year of my PhD in Germany. We knew that the patents had been filed. And it was only in the later, or maybe at the end of my PhD, that the tech transfer office of my university came back and said that, there is a potential for this to actually become a product. There is a demand for batteries that do not catch fire or can be much cheaper and safer than what we have. So that was my transition period. That was when I decided to not exactly become the CEO because it took 2 years from that point of time. But I participated in a lot of commercialization workshops. KiwiNet, which is a government agency that helps researchers to become entrepreneurs, entered my life. So attending those workshops, understanding the ABC of commercialization is what led me into this really magical world, which is not Hogwarts.
That's so funny. So, I feel like I'm in battery hell all the time. I have all these batteries. I'm trying to manage them. They're always running out of battery. The batteries degrade so fast. It's just a bit of a nightmare that we're all handling and managing at the moment. What do you see in the future when it comes to, I guess, this thing that we're trying to deal with, which is obviously trying to have enough energy stored somewhere on our body that isn't too hot, that isn't too explosive?
The good thing about batteries is that because everyone is using it, it's much easier to understand how every battery plays its own role. So, for example, when you're using a battery in your cell phone, you do not want it to be discharged in an hour. You want its longevity. However, if you are using a battery in a hearing device, your priority changes. You do not want that heating up. You do not want it to be flammable at any cost. So, when it comes to batteries, every application has a different priority list. Sometimes it's safety, sometimes it's cost when you're thinking about the bigger stationary batteries, and sometimes when it's about the consumer products, the electronic devices, it's mostly about how good your battery is performing. So lithium ion battery, it won the Nobel Prize in 2019 for all the good reasons. It charges really quick. It is flammable, but at the same time, there are industries that have enough money to safekeep your battery. But there are still industries looking for safer batteries. You have lead acid batteries, you have redox flow batteries, you have sodium, aluminium. So the researchers, the entrepreneurs know that all of these battery technologies, which are prioritizing one metric or the other, can coexist. So to answer your question, it's going to be very tricky for one tech or one chemistry to conquer all. So it's like all of these chemistries need to coexist. So TasmanIon, for example, is going for community batteries or home storage systems because you want it to be cheaper, you want it to not be flammable at any cost. So that is how we choose our market. That is how we make sure that everyone in the world who's using a battery, no matter what chemistry it is getting what they need from that tech.
And are you competing with the Tesla battery packs in a sense then? Is that a similar product now?
So we are not in the EV sector at all. So the vehicles, the four-wheelers or the big trucks, that's never going to be our
Oh,
target, at least for the next
yeah,
3 years. Yeah.
I was thinking more just the battery packs, and I know that they charge the cars,
Oh,
but
the
is that the kind
Powerwall.
of app? Yeah, the Powerwall. Sorry,
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
Powerwall.
Absolutely. It's in my pitch deck, actually.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
So the idea is that today Powerwall costs maybe 9 to 12,000 US dollars, right, for whatever energy that it provides. TasmanIon is going for a $4,500 for the same energy output. So that is our biggest competitor. But the good thing is that most of the developing countries, for example, India or Africa or the Southeast Asian countries, they cannot afford a Powerwall. Not everyone can afford a Powerwall. So you need a cheaper alternative. That is our first target market.
And what stage are you guys at then in regards to production? Have you proven and produced yet, or are you still pre mass production, pre a consistent production? What's the kind of stage at?
So we are definitely pre-production. We have a lot of prototypes made in our lab in Wellington. The biggest thing when it comes to a battery technology is making sure your recipe is validated, your performance is validated with third parties. So, for example, you need to take your recipe to a lab in Germany or a lab in Australia and make sure that it's giving you the same performance. So that's where we are. We have validated our recipe, we have validated the voltage performance, and so on and so forth. So it allows us to stick to the market that we have planned for us, right? But now we are opening the seed round, which means we want to get towards mass production. We want to reach out to more than one customer that we have today and enter the distribution channels in India to begin with and Australia following that.
Yeah, cool, interesting stuff. And I guess like what would you say actually then, now that you've kind of been 9 years in the making and it is hardware, it's kind of hard tech, it's very difficult. You've come from a academic background into this over time, which is actually kind of the most reasonable pathway for, I think, a product and a business like this, right? It just kind of makes sense. I know a few others that have done similar things, and it is the right path. But what would success look like for you over the next 5 years then? Like if we were to fast forward to 15 years down the line, not nine, like what would be the dream?
Honestly, we do not want to become the biggest manufacturer in the world. We do not want to be a Tesla or a Samsung. We wish to be acquired by those giants. Now, Sony and Samsung, they have existing distribution channel. They have enough money to invest in new research and development technologies. So, what TasmanIon hopes to do is we want to establish ourselves in the stationary storage sector in Australia and Asia and India. And once we have done that, we would love to get into the space applications and micromobility. But then we would want to stop. We do not want to spread ourselves too thin. I think the dream come true moment would be a company like Tesla or CATL or Sony or Samsung acquiring us for $1 billion.
Okay. And why $1 billion? Did you just make it up because you think that's fun for as a founder? Because I've done similar things in the past.
Yeah. So it's also about the size of the market that you're going for. The batteries are a billion dollar industries. You have the EVs, you have space, you have the portable electronic items, you have three-wheelers, which is apparently called micromobility, your e-scooters, e-bikes, laptops, and whatnot. So when it comes to a battery chemistry, you know that it's capable of a certain performance. However, it might take it 3 more years to become better than what it is today. If I plan to do that individually, it's going to take me 7 to 10 years. But if
Totally.
Samsung takes that up,
Yeah.
it might just take them a couple of years, right? So that is
Hmm.
why, as a founder, as the CEO, as someone who's aware of why a lot of battery startups or industries fail, is when you try to do everything on your own. Lithium ion batteries have existed for like 30 years. Sodium ion has taken 10 to 15 years. There's a reason why, if there's a new chemistry, it's okay to rely on the lessons learned by the others, right? My end goal is for people to use the TasmanIon technology.
Yeah. Yeah.
I want a safer and affordable battery to be present in every Indian household, having been grown up in energy poverty myself. So that being the ultimate goal, $1 billion, it's just a number. It's just making sure that the tech gets the widest and the most extensive distribution channel around the world so that everyone
Yeah.
uses it.
So you see it as obviously a problem that's big enough to build a big enough business based on the IP that you're creating. And as a founder, and as shareholders in that entity, you'd love to see a unicorn exit. And we have seen some hardware exits that have been extremely interesting, right, in New Zealand. So that all makes sense. It's not unfounded. But I just wanted to get a sense from your view. But I think it seems like you probably, would it be right to say that you're more interested in creating and building rather than maybe that scaling phase down the line? Like leave that to Samsung. I can go invent something new, or do you have ambitions to kind of transition your direction into that space too, like into that more commercially kind of, I guess, focused
Yeah,
area?
I think oh, that's a very interesting question. So I think in the past couple of years, I already realized that I was starting to incline towards the commercial aspect of the business,
Mm,
right? Because I started speaking with manufacturers in India, in Australia, in Singapore, in the US. I realized that it's great to create a technology, but the biggest hurdle is trying to commercialize it, right? Adoption. You have a lot of policies in place. You have to make sure that there is enough subsidiary for your tech to be adopted. The regulatory compliances. It's a battery at the end of the day. Lithium has set a precedent that batteries catch fire. So even if all of the raw materials that Tasmanian uses are non flammable, we still have to pass the safety test. So this is going to be a very long journey when it comes to proving ourselves in the stationary storage sector. right? And if you are coming on to smaller devices and more impactful devices, such as your cell phones and laptops and anything that you wear, your watches, the regulations are threefold, or like, it's immense. And taking that up is going to be extremely expensive. And mind you, when I say that we wish to be acquired by Sony or Samsung, this is literally after Series A or Series B. I'm not
Yeah,
even joking.
you've still got a lot of work to do, and
Yes,
yeah, it seems
yes.
like you're very clear on what you need to do, and you're very right in a sense that the harsh part is in the commercial side and the regulatory and compliance side, and getting that adoption, getting those step functions up in distribution or production capacity to take you to the next level. And obviously, that you've got a few more levels to go through, right? But I mean, the way you talk about it, to be honest, it seems like you could take it you could take it all the way. And I think it's cool. Like, as in, like, even, why stop at a billion? But sometimes it's nice to go and sit on a beach for a few weeks. But yeah, I mean, look, I think it's cool to have your eye on the prize when it comes to the distribution side, because I think as technically minded people, the comfort zone is thinking about product and thinking about the improving things, whereas a lot of those big problems are actually in how do you get someone to use the thing you've built at scale.
Um, I think when I see myself getting, those $1 billion, I still don't see myself detached from TasmanIon Tech. I would still want to be a part of developing that technology further, right? I'm not saying that I'm going to go back into the lab, but I think I just cannot give up on the idea of what this tech can do about applications that I might not be aware of today. I was speaking to someone, a retired engineer from Ferrari, and he connected me to a three-wheeler manufacturer in the Philippines. So you can imagine how extensive this network is. Like, yep, I would be the worst fit for Ferrari today, right? But eventually, in the next 7 to 10 years, you never know. However, for the Philippine company, the three-wheeler, we are good. The cost is good enough and everything. So even when I say that Sony, or Samsung acquires us, I cannot see myself getting away from this. But yeah, that's just, like a founder talking. Who knows? Who knows what happens in the next 10 years, Charlie? Who knows?
Oh, yeah, it's just about, obviously, yeah, taking it step by step, and continuing to solve problems and make progress, and then eventually another 5 years will pass just before you know it, right? That's just the nature of time. So what would you say then, the biggest challenge, or what would you say your biggest problem has been, or your biggest challenge has been to date, like in this whirlwind of a journey?
I think because we are working on batteries, time does not work as you want it to. So what I'm trying to say is, remember when I mentioned validation of your technology? Validation or validating your tech at a third party lab or an industry, it takes time. And in that time, you have your competitors doing something even bigger or better, right? So I think making sure that you have or you are in the right place at the right time is crucial. And it is also important to have the right investors by you. So, for example, having people who understand the industry well enough to put you in touch with people before you are desperate to get in touch with those people, if you understand what I mean, right? We are way too early. We have closed our pre-seed round back in 22. We got enough non-dilutive funding that kept us going, so that's great. But there's so much more that can be done if we find the right lead investor, and that is what I've been struggling with in the past few months. Battery tech carries a risk with it. the current political climate, unfortunately, is not helping this industry. US was going to be probably the place where my lead investor would have come from. I had 3 active conversations going. But in January 2025, everything changed. So I think being prepared for whatever might go wrong in the world is the challenge.
Yeah,
You
no,
cannot
totally.
control certain things, yeah, but your investors, your shareholders, I need to be realistic with them. I need to tell them the entire story and still have an achievable goal for the next 6 months or 12 months or 3 years or whatever that is. So,
That's
yeah.
right. Yeah, it's managing the micro with the macro, and that's kind of like the game as the founder, right? Is that you're trying to work out how to get into the continue playing the game tomorrow and continuing to do the operational milestones that you know that you need to hit while selling the dream and selling a forecast that really is not achievable but unrealistic to achieve because from a accuracy perspective. I've actually been reading this book. I think it's called Super Forecasters, and I'm very interested in forecasting and decision making and probabilities and how to manage risk. And I think risk is actually quite misunderstood. People often just say, "Oh, well, if you just take more risk, you'll make more. You've got an opportunity to make more reward." And there's a lot of thinking around, oh, well, if I'm diversified, I'm taking less risk. I think risk is also often really misunderstood, and it's something I'm quite fascinated by. And there's this book called Super Forecasters. And it's all about the best forecasters in the world. And even the best forecasters in the world, I would say even 50% of forecasting professionals are just as accurate as a monkey throwing darts at a dartboard and hitting it.
Yeah.
That's actually true,
Um,
according to the book. Now, yeah, so you can't actually accurately forecast more really than 18 months out in advance. But of course, as someone that's building a business that's got a long as a trajectory as you're expected to almost know what 10 years looks like. Um,
exactly.
yeah. So good luck.
Yeah.
No,
I
it's
think
cool.
the
It's cool.
past
I think,
couple
yeah,
of
you go.
years, yeah, it's taught us enough that you cannot predict certain risks, and no one saw this coming. Like whatever's happened in the past 12 months, no one could predict that. But in spite of whatever risk you would be prepared for, it happened, and most battery
Are you
businesses who were
saying, are you
targeting the
saying,
US.
sorry, are you saying the impact on you guys was the tariffs or was it the view on battery technology and electrification? Because I know that both of those have been.
Electrification.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
So it's the
because we were,
electrification
yeah,
thesis that has been put under pressure in markets. So
yes,
public markets have been
yes.
quite bad for solar and stuff, which is, I guess, connected to you guys. But that doesn't mean the trend is ending. It just means that capital might be tighter in this little pocket of the market because there's a lot of negative sentiment around it and hype in other energy sources, I think, as well, which would be contributing to it. So
I mean, imagine angel investors in the US and the conversations just dried up because they were scared that their funds might get frozen because they were investing actively in battery technologies and in offshore companies. So we are not at all at the
right.
stage where tariffs would scare us, right? We're not manufacturing or
They're
anything.
not
But the
manufacturing, yeah.
idea was to, yeah, like the idea was to at least understand or the concept of creating a presence in the US, right? Uh, but not today. Like even I am not very confident of entering the states today because of how I look. So how can I risk my business, right? So yeah,
Well, there's always alternatives, right? That's the great thing. And the US isn't the whole market. It
no,
just feels like
it's
it
not.
because they're the
It's not.
loudest in the market. That's all. Now,
India,
now,
Yeah, India was always going to be our target market. But US is something that you want to prepare for before you're actually ready for it, right? But that stopped. So we focused all our energy into India, Singapore, Australia, and some parts of Europe. Yeah.
Interesting. Oh wow, it feels like there's just we could talk for hours on this sort of stuff. But look, I think
Yes.
it's a really cool introductory to your journey, and I think that despite this short term difficulties and uncertainty we're dealing with here in the market, especially in anything that has commodities to do with it, right? Is that we need more power and we need more ways to store power, and that is a complex dynamic that actually every consumer is dealing with on a day-to-day basis, and we all feel the pain. So I'm really excited to see more hardware products and just exportation opportunities available in New Zealand to actually help our economy. And I'm just really interested to see how you guys go. And I'd love to keep the conversation going. And thank you so much for coming on the
Yeah,
pod. I really appreciate
absolutely.
it. I guess
Thank
just to
you.
take
Thanks, Charlie.
just to
Thanks for
take
having me.
away, no problem. But just to take away, I think an ending point. I had skipped to the outro there. Is what would you say the biggest lesson is that you've learned in this process? So someone else trying to take a similar path to you would be better prepared.
Oh, I think it's mostly a personality thing, being bold with your decisions. When you are in a startup, you have your management and then there's governance. But as a founder, there are some decisions that you really are desperate, for. Your passion tells you that, oh my God, this is going to work. But obviously, your colleagues might have a different opinion. So it's not always about the clashing of opinions, it's making sure that you understand the perspective and follow what your instinct tells you. Like it's also important to make sure that you understand the risks that is being conveyed to you. So yeah, I think being bold with some of my decisions would be the one lesson I've learned.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, and let's stay in touch. Like I said, awesome.